Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax, and let's chat about what is happening in the stars above today. And I wrote across the top of my paper today, it is a very active astrological day with a lot of different transits happening concurrently, which always adds to the tension, the nervousness of the energy. In fact, I even had to go put on some lavender. I was looking for an oil called Peace and Calming. I couldn't find it. Not that I necessarily needed peace and calming in the moment, but I was feeling myself all revved up because of just the writing of all of that, the things that are going on today. And in fact, I think to give you the best perspective of the day, of the power of astrology, I'm going to have to show you the chart and then do some drawings, my favorite thing to do, although I'm not so good at it, but that's okay. It's going to look like a crazy mess, and we're going to break it down little by little. When we have a day like today, it tends to break down our resistance to things around us, to change, to going with the flow, to harmonizing. And when I say breakdown, I mean what it usually is doing is sort of shattering the ability that we have to keep things going in the exact same direction. Remember, Jupiter and Pluto and Pallas Athena today are in a conjunction still. They're all sitting at 24 degrees, 4 minutes of the sign of Capricorn. And the three of them together are creating societal changes and upheavals, but they're also creating pathways for us to move forward. So again, this idea that the tension is being created when we try to stay on course in the same way that we've always done it. And they're sitting at the gate 61 in your human design, up in the head center, which is a center that the shadow energy is psychosis. So you can see that in order to break us out of that psychosis, we have a lot of other energies around us happening all together simultaneously in this particular week, in the shadow of an eclipse, to sort of shatter our resistance to making movement in the right direction, to making strides toward peace and harmony, toward solving problems and conflicts in a balanced and equal way. And in the meantime, we have, several battlefronts out there in the world that we're also monitoring as time goes on. So let's just say a quick hello to everybody checking in with us now. Good morning, Debbie Tibbetts Tumiel and Terry and J-Lo and Amy and Phantom Chroma and Amanda Jeffs and Taylor. Good morning, Taylor. Good to see you. I know you don't get to join us very often. It's wonderful to see all of you here this morning. So let's see, how do we break this down? I have this page that I started, and we'll just start with where I started this morning, and then we'll sort of weave our story in and out a bit. So, of course, the moon is now fully in the sign of Scorpio. And in the sign of Scorpio, the moon is delving into the deep. She is willing to go into the darker places. She is willing to uncover secrets. She is willing to expose what lies beneath. And that means we are often presented then with problems or tensions in our own self, or misalignments in our own energy for us to work through. And in that today, she is pairing up with the planet Uranus in an opposition. So we have the planet of liberation and awakening on one side, and the moon, which holds our emotions and our soul connection, on the other, and they're pulling in opposite directions. So on one level, that creates a level of craziness. And at the same time, the moon in Scorpio is in a trine, which is a 120-degree angle between the planets, a smooth flow and interaction of the energies of those planets. And that is with Sun and Mercury retrograde, which, if you think about that, then puts the Mercury and the Sun in a conjunction today, which is another one of our big transits of the day. And then Mercury retrograde conjunct the sun is also in a square to the planet Chiron. So we have some wounding and some, healing that's possible. And at the same time, that puts Chiron in an inconjunct to the moon, which means there's a stressor between the healing and the wound and the moon in Scorpio, right? Maybe there's resistance on our parts to going into the depths, to really looking at how responsible we are personally for our own wound and for as well the healing of said wound. And then as well, then with the Pallas Jupiter-Pluto conjunction going on, I would say that there is a lot for us to handle. So I'm going to go check back real quick, say good morning to everybody else who's popped in. Hello, Jennifer Peachy and Valerie Jocelyn. Good to see you, Val. Mimi John, Colts, good morning to you. I had a dream about you this morning. It was in the middle of the night, Mimi. You and I were working on something. I don't know what it was now because I can't remember. But what woke me up is in the dream, I got a cramp in my leg. And it wasn't just one of those mild little, oh, move your leg around cramps. It was a full-on cramp. And guess what? That was really happening in my life. And I had to jump out of bed. I scared the crud out of my husband. And it was just a crazy, crazy dream. I wish I could remember the rest of the details. But we were definitely working on something of importance, yet I was pulled out of it at the last minute there, and I never did go back. So it was weird to see you in my dreams. Not weird because, of course, we're all interconnected, but anyway, good morning, Amanda Hansen and Laura Wolfberg. Good to see you. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the astrology chart of the day, and I'm going to share my screen so that I can show you visually what is going on, which means I'm going to have to draw. And you guys know that doesn't always work out real well when you're using a mouse to annotate. And I'm going to see if there's a way that I can make it a very fat thing. There's that. And we're going to start here with this color. All right, so the very first thing going on today, irregardless of the moon and everything, is the huge Pallas Athena, Jupiter and Pluto conjunction. And that is going on right here in the chart. And this is the sign of Capricorn here. Capricorn is playing host to this giant change that is going on, this huge restructuring and reforming of our society and of our world at large, which is also restructuring and reforming the very template of the human being in preparation for an evolutionary leap that has looking forward happens here in the next 7 years. And one way to prepare for an evolutionary leap is to break down the current structures and forms that are engaged here. So while we have some craziness in that outer world between the virus and, these different rebellions going on or protests over the way Black people have been treated in the world and the inequality of the way laws have been applied, we still have a purpose and a meaning to all of that. And, here in our country, we've got an election season in play that's also adding to the craziness. And it is this area of the chart here in, I did not do a good job of including Pallas in there. There she is. So we have these three, Pallas, Pluto under the line, and Jupiter all at 24 degrees, all with a purpose. And their purpose, of course, yesterday, as I kind of detailed, societal changes, provoking a fear of one another, and creating space for that sort of Plutonian transformation to occur. So for us here, we have to remember that Pallas Athena, this little symbol right here, she looks like a diamond with a cross underneath. She represents a warrior goddess, not a warrior man, a warrior woman. And so she reminds me of, say, Wonder Woman or Xena. In fact, when this asteroid or planet, dwarf planet, was first discovered, they named her Xena after the character it was a TV show at the time, where Xena was a warrior woman. And she was warring for good. She wasn't, just warring to take other people's lands or their resources or to gain access to the ocean. Nope, that's not what her warrior battles were all about. It was about improvement. It was about improving people's lives, creating a pathway to freedom. She was basically a freedom fighter. And even in Wonder Woman, you see the costume that she wears, albeit a bit, sort of sexually patronizing, was stars and stripes, a representation of the freedom that our country here originally stood for. So she was a freedom fighter, and she still is a freedom fighter. So here we're fighting, she's fighting on our behalf, or it shows where we're fighting to restructure, reform, rebuild, regenerate our very existence here on the planet. So the planet itself and the countries on the planet are restructuring, but we are also as individuals restructuring. So what do we do with this conjunction personally when this is huge behind the scenes sort of energies? What do we do personally? Well, we check our own determination to grow and to improve our lives, to succeed in being able to express the highest and best of who we are, to be able to share our gifts and our talents freely and in a very positive and contributory way to the world. But here's a good question for you. What are you willing to fight for? What are you willing to let go of in order to move forward fearlessly? And what are you willing to add your name to? Because there's a bit of an activism energy built in here that sort of takes us into this not the negative connotation of the fight. But remember yesterday when we were sort of looking forward to the energies that begin tomorrow, with the sun moving into the gate 39 of provocation and the earth moving into the gate 38 of struggle, it is reminding us what some things are worth fighting for. Some things are worth struggling forward to. And what are those things? It might be personal to you, and it might be something that you're engaged in that is helping the world change. And it doesn't matter, because everybody's part helps. Everybody's part is important. So you may just be talking to one or two neighbors in your neighborhood about how we can change, and your recognition that they feel the same bonds you in some magnificent way that adds to the tapestry of the world. Or you may be someone that's on the big world stage who's changing things from a bigger perspective. Either way, everybody's playing a role. There is no more importance in the person on the big world stage than the person like me talking to maybe hundreds of people, to the person like you maybe who is only talking to maybe your kindergarten class, right? Well, nobody's talking to any kindergartners right now, but anyway, you're talking to the people in your life. It just doesn't matter. There is no better way than your own personal way to connect to the things that are changing on the planet, because you have power in that. You have the freedom to think the way that you want to think. You have the freedom to be able to stand up and say, I'll vote for that, right? Or I'll spend money on that, or I'll help with that. So here we have this huge change going on in the bigger, wider world, but at the same time, it is also affecting us individually here. All right, so that's all this energy. Now I'm going to see if I can change, and we're going to go to, let's go to green. I like green for Mercury. So then also today, and we did talk a bit about this yesterday as I was doing the overview of the week, the Sun and Mercury retrograde will come into a conjunction. They're already sitting at 9 and 10 degrees of Cancer. But the Mercury's moving this direction while the sun is moving this direction. Look at that. I'm drawing. Woohoo. So they are on a collision course, right? They're coming together for what is called the inferior conjunction of Mercury and the sun. Now, this inferior conjunction, and here I'm going to change the color again to red, is happening in a square to Chiron over here. Could have just followed these lines, who is at the same degrees, 9 degrees of Aries. So 9 degrees, 10 degrees, 9 degrees, excuse me, of Cancer, 9 degrees of Aries. These two are in a square. So we have Mercury conjunct the Sun in a square to Chiron. And then we also have, let's see, what color am I going to do for this one? Let's do blue. We're going to also have Mercury and the Sun in a trine. Follow this blue line down to the Moon. And then we also have, let's do a darker green. We have the Moon in an inconjunct to Chiron. So we have this colossal change magnet thing going on here. We have Saturn sitting at a very tentative degree. We have, as tomorrow he moves backward into Capricorn. Right now he's at 0, of Aquarius. So we feel a shift is already happening, right? There's some kind of shift in the energy, moving backward to more of this deconstruction, reconstruction, and rebuilding and reforming energy. Then we have this wound component that is built in. Now, Mercury and the Sun in their conjunction reminds me of a two-way mirror. And in that two-way mirror, we have one face, if you will, or one side of the mirror that's looking toward the past. There's the past over there, the past, while we have the other one focused in the future, trying to stabilize what comes next. So Mercury conjunct the Sun is that tender spot. It's the halfway point in the retrograde cycle, where we have the ability to look backwards and see what maybe has been a part of our past that we no longer want to take forward with us, except for the experience of it. What is in the past that's worth bringing into the now with us, and then ultimately looking at how do we take all of that and move it into the future with the Mercury position in conjunct the Sun. So we're looking to the past, we're bringing the best of the past forward, and then we're looking to the future, and also looking to stabilize and to build something that has sustainability, right? Sustainability. In this way, then we can release. This is your time. Oh my goodness, that, and connected with our full moon lunar eclipse on Saturday, this is our time to release the old baggage, right? And create space for the new you, for the new world, for the new earth, for the new way of being. So there are old patterns that can be let go of. There's a well of, we could call this all here, an opportunity for huge leaps in healing, right? Healing the wound. And the wound here, I was looking deeper into the wound for today's webinar, the July webinar for those who are members in the Academy, and really looking at what is Chiron in Aries? What is it really bringing us? And, the first adjective, verb, I'm not even sure what to call this here. The first thing that came up was self-sufficiency, loving the self, taking care of the self, being self-aware, and really understanding who you are. That is what the Chiron energy here is bringing us. And with Mercury and the Sun, it says, so even though you are sort of a collection of all of the things that have happened in your past, including past lives that you may not have conscious awareness of, you can choose what you leave behind, and you can choose what you take with you, because it's all about you at the moment, right? This is I want to say this is very self-centered, but how about this? It is about self-honoring and the process of then what does it take for us to honor ourselves? Now, we still have some new ideas, some very raw, new things that are coming up for us, new ways of being, new ideas, new opportunities, new people, new businesses, new ways of being in business, all of these things that still need vetting in our world, in our individual lives as well, because they're not tried or trued or tested. So in the vetting process, in order to bring a new person in, bringing a new you in, you have to look at, what do you need to leave behind? What isn't suiting you anymore? What have you grown beyond? Right? What have you grown beyond? It's like when you are a child and you're outgrowing your clothes, right? You can't just keep trying to put on those pants that you can't button because they're not going to fit. You can't take them with you. You leave them behind or you give them away. Or, if they're trashed, you throw them in the trash. So you have opportunity here to really take the truth of who you are with you into the future, and not just some conglomeration mess of things that are no longer serving you. I guess that's the way for me to look at that. So you can gain a new perspective on the world and on your part in the world. So tons available for us at this particular point in time, but it takes some work on your part. So an awakening is happening here. When you look at the moon, I didn't even talk yet about the fact that, oh my, I didn't even do this yet, that the moon is also today in an opposition here to the planet Uranus, and that Mercury and the sun in sextile here are in a sextile to the planet Uranus. So this is this is why I said today is like this crazy astrological day where you almost have to, as much as I'm sitting here breaking this down for you, you almost have to forget all of this and just go with the flow of the energy and where it's taking you, because there's something deep happening here, an awakening. Remember Uranus, our little awakener, right? He's the one that's shaking the trees. He's the one that's creating a pathway of liberation, right? That's what his deal is. And as we have a Scorpio moon revealing secrets to us right now, and we are in the space of releasing in order to move on, today is the perfect day to, have that portal of awakening right there for all of us. It's almost unbelievable that all of this could be happening at one time, right? It almost makes you tired. It almost makes me go, I want to just close my eyes and go back to sleep for a while. Can I sleep through this craziness? But we want to be alive here. We want to be awake here. We want to realize that things are so changing and that there are positive things out there on the horizon. Positive that we can connect with, that we can feel okay with moving forward. And I'm not going to say it's easy, and I'm not going to say there won't be things that drive us nuts over the next several months, including the next year or so. But there's a positive feel here. I think we're turning some kind of corner, and that in the turning of the corner, it really puts the power on us. It puts the onus on us as individuals to create that pathway forward, that we can't look to our officials. We can't look to our leaders. They're as crazy as we are right now, crazier, right? Because their stuff is playing out on a worldwide screen or on the national screen. Your stuff's playing out in your own personal life. Their stuff is playing out in the bigger, wider world. So it really tells that we need to be empowered individually and move through our own stuff. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing the screen because just looking at that's making me feel anxious. Let's see how you guys are feeling about it all. And is there some way that I can make this more understandable to you, or in some way make you feel a little bit better about it? Good morning, Asa. Good morning, Destiny. Mimi says, oh my, perhaps some clues to the dream will return. Weird question. Was there a tall fellow in the mix? There was a man, a male in the mix. And I feel like some kind of vehicle. And I don't know what that was about. I really don't. I felt like it was my son, who is tall. And yet I'm not sure. I just am not sure, Mimi. It was, if I hadn't woken up probably with such a bad cramp in my leg and having to dance around the house, trying to relieve it, I probably would have had space to remember it. But interesting, huh? Maybe I'll flash on it later and I can let you know. Deborah Johnson, good morning. And J-Lo, flashback, I used to say that was me. And Taylor, saying hello to her mama. Amanda Hansen laughing. Taylor says it's good, kind of crazy. Benjamin Saboyan, my first time catching this show live. Usually I listen to the podcast during my morning walk. Well, you can still do that, but I'm so glad that you got to join us live, Benjamin. It's really great to have your energy joining with ours, and I hope to see you again here. Deb Johnson's welcoming you as well, and I think everybody else will take their chance and opportunity to welcome you. This is also my time to say, if you haven't already done so, please give the video a thumbs up if you're enjoying what we're talking about. Maybe not the subject matter or just enjoying the broadcast in general, let's say. And also, if you haven't already done so, please hit the subscribe button. And if you want notifications when I'm coming on live, you can hit the little bell next to that. Gemini, Benjamin is another Gemini. Thanks for the welcome. You are so welcome. And of course, I love Geminis, as I am also one. Kimberly, good morning, everybody. So it's great to see everybody. So I want to know now, how are you guys feeling about all of this? Are you feeling this energy? Are you welcoming this energy? Are you doing your own due diligence, your own work on yourself as you go forward here? I kind of want to know, how's everybody else feeling? Sometimes I feel, right now I look at all of this on the paper because, I have this paper filled with, information that I preview every morning. And as I'm writing this, it seems so impersonal. Right. And I'm impersonally saying the moon is opposing Uranus. Wait for crazy. It feels impersonal to say Mercury is retrograde conjunct the sun. And these are the things, right? But you're all real people and you're all experiencing your real life with the real challenges of the moment that we're sitting in and the real, maybe joys of the moment as well. And the possibilities that are opening up. So I really do feel, like I want to know, how are you guys feeling? Kimberly says she's feeling exhausted, and I don't doubt that in the least. Jennifer says, I'm feeling this energy, and even as chaotic as the blank, I'm not sure if yeah. Oh, yeah. Everything's chaotic, in other words. Monique Alexander, hello, darling. Jennifer Peachy, the world is, as blank as, effed up as the world is. I'm excited. I get it. Destiny, I've been having some weird dreams. Definitely me too. Asa says hugs to her daughter. I love that. Tati, good morning. She says, hi, Janet and everyone. I feel really exhausted too. Jessica Morgenthaler, it's great to see you. I just did some energy work yesterday and the imbalance between my feminine and masculine, but what I'm working on is such a thing for the world. So true, so true, so true. And I was kind of funny this morning, just kind of running down in my mind these health challenges that have been popping up in my world, in my body, in my world. And I've been, sitting here going, today moon is in Scorpio. This is a really good time to get to the depth of what is going on. What does it mean? So there are some really cool things I think that we have access to be able to process, right? To expose the hidden layers of what's going on for each of us. When the moon is in Scorpio, it's a perfect time. Ooh, I'm getting chills. Perfect time to do that depth work, right? To work on yourself. Alona Whitebird, welcome. It's great to see you too. She says, I am tired, but I have been feeling argumentative. You can thank Mars in Aries for that. And the fact that he's headed toward a conjunction with Chiron in the next few weeks, also the Black Moon Lilith, and then eventually Eris, then turning retrograde and squaring Pluto, Jupiter-Pallas Athena, and Saturn. I mean, he's really just getting his chops in right now. So if you're feeling conflict and you're feeling tension and you're feeling argumentative, look to the source of where that's coming from, because it may be that you're in the throes of some kind of transformation internally, and it may be different for you than what it is in the outer world, and that's the source of the conflict. Mars and Aries probably. Oh, yes, indeed. And let's see. Benjamin, since the lockdown in March, I've renewed my interest in astrology, tarot, and meditation. Loads of inward reflection. Carry on. We need you out there doing that. Destiny, don't trust Mars. Taylor, definitely weird dreams over here too, since Neptune is in retrograde. And, behind the scenes, guys, there's also Neptune and Jupiter that have been in a sextile, or at least within orb of a sextile. There's 3 exact moments of Neptune and Jupiter in a sextile this year that are really showing us the need for that more spiritual connection and bringing us the wisdom of being in a spiritual way of mind. So we have all of that going on behind the scenes that helps us. I really see that one as a help. Remember last year, Saturn was in a sextile to Neptune. We talked about it. It also had 3 exact coming together. And that was about building a spiritual practice. And that was about strengthening your spiritual practice and really embodying, bringing in this concept of being a spirit in body on the planet. And here now Jupiter's going through the same set of transits with Neptune, only in this time we're gaining wisdom from this. We're seeing the real mastery of who we are as human beings, the real co-creative potential of who we are and of what we're creating on the planet. So that's also, even though today's not the day, it'll be July 27th when they come back again for the next coming together, the exact, they're still within orb of one another and still bringing us more and more of that spiritual wisdom. So follow those trails, right? Follow those, contact trace the truth about your spirituality and who we really are, because it really does bring us peace, and it brings us more into unconditional love and compassion for one another. So I think it's a perfect opportunity for us to be doing that. Destiny. Deborah Johnson, sorry, I missed yours. I feel exhausted, but very excited. Anticipation, positive anticipation. I love it. There's even a gate that the sun or the earth will be in this month for July called the Gate of Anticipation. So maybe you'll have more of that. Destiny says, I think the moon is the reason for these dreams, Janet, our subconscious contacting our self-consciousness through the images so that we can reconcile with ourselves. Indeed, maybe so you can see yourself in a better light. I think the moon, too, facilitates our moving into the void, the space of no space, where we can really dive deep into our consciousness and our patterns to help us release these things that are no longer serving us, that we can't take forward, right? It's like you're getting on an airplane and all you can take with you is one bag, right? You can check the other bags, I suppose. I mean, it's going to still be there in the belly of the plane, but the one that you take with you, the one that's with you is, can only be so much. So it better be the things that are most important to you, right? The tools that you really need moving on. Deb, that's a great observation, Destiny. Asa had crazy dreams last night too. Most people in the dream were from my past. Some have transitioned or even, I knew it, telling me to move on from fears. Well, you must listen. You must listen, Asa. Fear is your friend in a way. It shows you where you're still holding on to something that isn't really true, right? Because it's false evidence appearing real. The real you is fearless, and the real you has everything she needs to move forward with that, without the fear. Good morning, Kamal. Great to see you. Asa says, giving me the feeling today to just figure out what to leave behind. I'm going to come to that, Asa. Destiny says, oh, yes. Deborah Johnson, perhaps we need a card for the collective, a WOTO. I will pull the deck out here and we will look at that. And Tati says, I feel that, Destiny, indeed. So I want to go back to something that Asa just said. And I checked our just now chart this morning and I thought, well, no big changes. So I didn't really want to take the time to show you the chart. But I want to, and I'm not beating you up at all, Asa, because we're all doing this right now, this idea of figuring things out. And in human design, one of the first ahas I ever had is that there is no one person on this planet, not one of the 7 or so billion of us here, that is designed to figure it out, that is designed to use the mind to make decisions. And that truth was, and that wisdom just hit me like, a brick had fallen on me, because so many times in our lives we've been told to figure it out, right? I remember saying to my kids when they were working on schoolwork, and they were upset because they couldn't get the answer, and I'm telling them, figure it out. Where an Einstein would have gone into meditation, staring at the flame of a candle to intuit or to tap into what it is was the answer. So when we say figure it out, that is really an artifact of our conditioning, where we've been taught to use the mind to calculate, to compare and contrast, to go back to data recall, and then to make a decision based on all of our observations from the mind. Now, while I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, what I am saying, the final dispositor of your decision making is below the neck, right? It's in the body. It might be in the spleen where there's intuition. It might be in the solar plexus where it's what feels good to you. It could be in the will center where you're using your will to move forward. It could even be in the identity center where, as you look around and talk to the people in your life, you see yourself more clearly. But it is most definitely not in the head. It is not in the head. The head is not the place where we need to figure things out. It is where we can recall some pieces, where we can do some comparing and contrasting, but just as an exercise in thinking, not as an access point to making the decision of what we do next. Now, the reason why we're all feeling that is because, let me see if I can go to the website. Oh yeah, what I do. Let's do it. I'll take us to Jovian Archive, even though I didn't keep the chart. Let me just bring up the just now chart so I can visually give you the identification of what's happening here. Oops, I want to share my screen. Here we go. So this is the just now chart, which means we're looking at in the moment what a human design chart looks like and where all the planets are. And you see that the just a quick reminder, in a human design chart, the centers that are colored in are the places where you are broadcasting your own authentic energy. Now, that's not what's going on here in this chart, but in your own personal chart. When you see colored in centers, that's broadcasting energy. When you see open centers or white centers, even white channels or white gates, these numbered centers or these numbered places are called gates. That is where you're taking in the energy from around you and you amplify it and rebroadcast it. So this is where things, misidentification can happen in your own chart. Well, a good 50 to 60% of the population has an open head and ajna center. And look what's happening right now. We have Jupiter-Pallas Athena and Pluto sitting at gate 61 in the head center, with Uranus sitting at gate 24. These are planets that are here for the long term, meaning months, not just days or a day. So for the long term, I think what we're really having to do is empty the contents of our mind, right? To release ourselves from the power that the mind holds over us, in favor of moving into the areas that are down here that are more appropriate for decision making. We humans at the moment sort of lost connection to our body's wisdom in favor of the mind, but the mind is only an awareness center. It can only recall data and bring up facts and figures, things we know. It can only compare and contrast. It's like the hard drive of your computer, right? You enter in a command and it spits out an endpoint to something, an answer. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right answer. It is based on awareness. It doesn't have any real energy of action. The action centers are more down here. So when Asa, says where she's trying to figure it out, and she's not the only one, I've seen it several times. I've said the same thing over and over again recently. We don't need to figure things out. That isn't our job. Our job is to tap into the wonder and the magic here. The gate 61 in its highest state is wonder. And in the gate 24, it is really about letting go of the mind and really following the impulses that the body are bringing us to, the wisdom in your body. So Here, the tendency is to want to rationalize, to make it logical, but those are things that are going to keep you up here locked in your head, and you need to purposefully, open-mindedly connect to your body down here. All right. How does everybody feel about that? Let's go back to YouTube. Yeah, so giving you the feeling today to just figure out what to leave behind, Asa. How about this? How about if we frame it to intuiting, or I can't remember what your power is, your authority. If it's emotional, what do I feel like I don't need to take forward with me? If it's the spleen, what in your mind, there we go. See how quickly the mind comes up? What in your intuition is telling you to, what's being told to you to let go of, and in order to move forward? So it's semantics, I know, but it's also, those semantics are tied to how we think, right? So we have to be able to change the communication so that we can change the expression of that in the world, in ourselves. Okay, so perhaps, yeah, I've got the cards, Deborah, so I will do that. Tati says she feels that destiny. Don't forget to give Janet the thumbs up. Thanks, Terry. I love you. Amy says, yes, thumbs up. Asa, what do I do then, goddess? There you go. I go by my human design authority. Yes. Tell me what your human design authority is, Asa, and that's going to help me help you. Kimberly says, yes, agreed. Deborah Johnson, brain dump, I call it. I love it. J-Lo, I have Saturn in my design and personality at gate 39 in the 5th line, and it's hanging. Does that point to large change in my own life? Well, guess what? This week we're going into, tomorrow, the sun will be at the gate of provocation. Which is what your Saturn is in. Now, Saturn in your human design represents where you are calling up your own authority, where you are rewarded for doing the work, or where you might find yourself in a karmic relationship to show you where it is that you're not doing the work. So at the gate 39, it's provocation, right? It's pushing us. You may even find yourself in the role of provocateur, where at times the things you say, the things you do, the things you don't say, or the things you don't do provide a provocation for someone to grow more toward the emotional center, toward the gate 55, which is the gate of spirit, right? Abundance through spirit. So it's almost that the gate 39 can act as that provocateur, getting in alignment emotionally. So now with the sun moving there, you've just got one more piece that may be bringing you into a situation of calling up your own authority, being your own headmistress, if you will, and helping others to be that for themselves as well. Benjamin says, I found that performing calculated acts of kindness has helped raise my own vibrations. Ooh, I love that. My new mission in life is to answer this question. How can I make someone's day today? And I have no qualms about that at all, Benjamin, as long as you're also balancing that with, how do I make myself happy today? Because making yourself happy also spills out from you and envelops others around you. So we want both, right? We want to be happy. We want others to be happy. We want everyone to be able to have access to that energy. Just don't let yourself off the hook, right? You need to be factored into that as well. Asa, manifestor, ego center, the will center. Okay, this is perfect because that's a different type of authority than what we usually see, right? You guys are used to hearing me talk about the spleen. You're used to hearing me talk about emotional authority, but even sacral authority, where you have that in the moment. But the will center presents us with a little bit different kind of authority, and it's rare. It's not very many people out there. It's usually manifestors, and Asa, indeed, you're a manifester who have this kind of authority where it's just your will, right? Thy will be done, right? Your will be done. So you basically just tap into that persevering and that will center, that says, fear be gone, right? Fear be gone, fear be damned. I'm going forward, right? So the mind however, is creating all this craziness around the will. So obviously the will is telling you it's time to let go of fear, whatever that might be, the fear that you have in your life. The will center, when you tap into that, is bringing you back to the heart, right? Bringing you back to it is called the heart center. So you can bring back to your central core, and that central core of your will that says, this is what I want. This is where I'm going. This is how it's going to be. And that might change because you're a manifester, right? And you're sort of trying things, initiating this, and then maybe keeping it and doing it, or maybe not. But it's your will that takes you there. I hope that helps. J-Lo, you're welcome. Taylor Jenkins, my gate 39 is clear, but gate 55 is red where the south node is. What could this mean? That is a great question, Taylor, because that means as we move tomorrow to where the sun will be at gate 39, the entire channel will become defined for you, albeit temporarily, for about 5 days while the sun is sitting at the gate 39. And now that is the channel of emoting. That particular channel takes us into emotional expression. It is a channel whereby we get moody. You may find, and don't be surprised if this happens, where you go into this down shift, or maybe you come out of the down and into the upswing, because this is energy that alternates between the low emotional wave and the high emotional wave. And in the low, which I don't want people misunderstanding, that you may feel depressed or you may feel melancholic, but it is an incubator for great creative ideas that will, also shift likely when that particular energy is released, which will be 5 or so days from now. Alternatively, it can also bring you out into the high part of the wave. So if you've been in that low part, this transit will bring you into the high, and suddenly you have access to what emotionally feels good to you, what emotionally makes you happy, or your truth. So it can be very positive, but on the other hand, it can also bring you into a low part of the wave. Do not be concerned either way, right? Either way, it's perfect for you in this moment. So it is going to be very much about emotions in that particular time period. You're welcome, Asa. And Terry says, I so agree with kindness goes a long way. Indeed, indeed. All right, so let's see what time we're looking at. So right now I'm going to pull us a Woto because Deb Johnson asked for that. And this will be a card that gives us access to some wisdom. It's the Wisdom of the Oracle deck, written by Colette Baron Reed. And it is one of my favorite decks. You can tell it's been used well, loved well. So let's draw us a card for the collective and see what that energy is bringing us to. Oh, this is perfect. It is the card Exchanging Gifts. And let's see if I back it up a little bit. There you go. You can see how beautiful the card is. It was in protection mode when I drew it. It was upside down. And it's card 27, which is a 9, which talks about giving is receiving and receiving is giving. Let's read it. So number 27. Oh, further back. Okay, here we go. So the essential meaning of the card is the law of giving and receiving, currency, trade-offs, weighing costs, and determining value. And because it was upside down when I pulled it, it is in what we call protection mode, or we get a protection message. And it says, be careful what you pray for because you just might get it. And then realize you don't want to face the hefty price tag that comes with it. You may find yourself in a situation you've always desired, but know you will have to walk away from or even fail at it because you can't or won't pay the dues it asks of you. If you want to be a famous musician, you have to practice your craft every day. If you want to be a millionaire, you have to be responsible for managing the money and paying the taxes. Even a windfall bears a cost. It's okay, though, because Spirit will help you achieve balance over time. Another message here reminds you that being only the giver and not the receiver plays out in many relationships in your life where you find yourself in victim mode or in a codependent dynamic or holding on to a false sense of control. Others may push you to continue to prove yourself. This time, The time has come to distance yourself from this kind of imbalance. Being aware of the need for both give and take is the first step to your true destiny. It's all good and getting better. Not only can you handle this, but you can flourish as a result of it. I mean, if I consciously chose a better card, I mean, I couldn't have consciously pulled a better card. There we go, exchanging gifts. So Deb Johnson, perfect opportunity for us to share that kind of information with everyone. Okay, now put this out of my way. Let me take a look really quickly because we're winding down here. Let's look at if there was anything more I needed to share about the moon today. The moon in Scorpio, of course. So we were already talking about going into the depth, going into the deep, right? We should play. And now today I want to play Adele's song, Rolling in the Deep, because we're rolling in the deep. The potential of rolling in the deep is that you come back up with something new, with a jewel, right? With something very profound for yourself. We are also feeling rather vulnerable during a moon in Scorpio transit, vulnerable to criticism, and also because the moon, as I showed you, is in that in conjunct with Chiron, there may be some healing possible, but also we may also be taking in the criticism from our peers, from our family, or, you know, because our minds are very activated right now, we may be remembering all those times, all those criticisms, and feeling vulnerable to that. Being vulnerable is not the problem, but identifying with that vulnerability as something negative or something bad is the problem, right? So we want to be vulnerable. We want to be able to put our hearts out there, to put our work out there. But you also have to know that other people who do criticize your work or what's happening, what you're doing, are having their own problems, right? That, you know, criticism, it doesn't always have to be a negative thing, but you could be asking yourself the question, why am I seeing that out there? Right? What can I learn from that criticism? We also, during this moon in Scorpio, may feel drawn to new, different approaches. There's a lot of newness also here that's possible, as long as we're willing to be innovative and to take those steps and not get caught up in fear, right? To not get caught up in the whispering of, well, the last time you did that, you failed miserably. To not get caught up in that self-talk that creates a stopping point, right? Go full on out there in whatever it is that you want to do. Letting the fear be your friend, and that it shows you what you're still sort of in resonance with, but hearing the fear, feeling the fear, and going on and doing it anyway, right? In the right and perfect way. All right. Now let's look at today's Pleiadian-Earth energy before we go. Today is 9/Loving, which in the Mayan calendar was Lamont, and Lamont was the representation of Venus. So Venus meaning love, but Venus also meaning the society and how we work together in a society or a culture. And then the 9 energy of harmonizing. So today's a day to harmonize productivity with relaxation, right? Because a part of that loving energy is taking the time to enjoy the world, enjoy your life, enjoy the people, enjoy the flowers, enjoy the temperature, enjoy the rain, enjoy the cold if you're in the land down under. Whatever it is that you take the time today to really relax and enjoy the positiveness, but also know that there are some tensions here. This particular part of our evolution of consciousness, as the loving part of it, is about loving it all, right? Loving it all, even the tension. But the tension can show you or call to your attention where you might be out of balance or out of harmony. And then you can choose, because we're always choosing, we can choose to blend and harmonize, or we can choose to create more conflict and judgment. So today's one of those days where it really puts the responsibility on our shoulders to really be the truth of who we are. And that if you are experiencing conflict and judgment, then taking that and understanding it more, right? Looking at it deeper, and then harmonizing it, right? Bringing it back into some kind of equanimity. Resolving conflicts today in a way that honors all perspectives and brings in unconditional love. Just because you're in conflict with somebody, maybe you don't see eye to eye, doesn't mean that you don't have common ground, right? It's that 8, even though this is 9, we have the 8. Remember the heart-to-heart connection and the mirror image of one another connected at the heart. There's nothing wrong with everyone having their own perspective. And I think there's a fear when we see sometimes when we go into this kind of conflict because this person sees things one way and this person sees things another way, is that somehow we're devalued, or would you rather be right or would you rather be at peace? That's what it comes down to. And being at peace says, okay, well, there's nothing threatening to me in someone else's perspective, right? It doesn't make mine not true just because it's true for that person. And so we learn in this way to value all perspectives, right? That's the day to day by bringing in kindness, compassion, and grace, and that unconditional love. We value everybody for their contribution, for what they have to offer, for their challenges, for the things they're learning, right? Their path of evolution. So 9 today is all about harmony and Lamat, or loving energy, all about bringing in that unconditional love, the higher order of love. Okay, last look here. Deborah, thank you, Janet. Have a great day. It is a great card. I love that card. Everybody totally trying to ignore that self-talk right now. You know how they say what you resist persists? So ignoring the self-talk is probably tantamount to resisting, right? And then it persists. Instead, maybe embrace that self-talk and say, yes, I value your opinion. I value that there's a part of me that's still afraid, that's still caught up in the past, or that still feels like I'm not good enough, or not pretty enough, or not smart enough, or not funny enough, whatever it is. And I value that part of myself. I embrace it. I love it unconditionally because it is a part of who I am. However, I choose this in a new direction, right? It's always about I choose. You're choosing. And you know, there's a Rush song that says, and if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. So here we go, right? It's this idea of embracing all that we are, including the fear, including the darkness. If we don't, it's going to persist. And yet in that inclusivity is the choice. But we're going this way now, and I'm taking you with me, and I'm going to soothe you, and you're going to see how great this is going to be. And we're going to see how wonderful life can be when we do things my way, which is that way. So hopefully that's helpful for all of you. You know, we're always trying to ignore something, but to ignore something just invites it to stick around, I think. Taylor, what if someone's perspective is clearly harmful? How can we respect it? Well, maybe you don't respect that perspective, but you respect that person to know that and honor their pathway. And whatever path that they're going down, which may not be the path you're going down, is exactly right for them and exactly perfect for where they are in their evolutionary path. And I know it's so easy to stand here or sit here and for me to say this, because in practice it works out completely differently, right? The first time somebody does something and you're like, oh my God, I cannot believe that person did that or said that. But they're a person on this planet and they are worthy, just as intrinsically valuable as you are, but they may just be on a different evolutionary path. We can honor that without really believing that it's true, because it's not true for you, perhaps, but maybe it is true for that person. So, and if it's somebody that is harmful for you, then, you know, you can choose to walk away, right? You can choose to not allow that person in your life because they're not healthy for you. It doesn't mean that you're judging them. It's that you're honoring that they have a path that they're going down, but it isn't the same path that you're going down. And as much as I love you, or as much as I value you, I need to move over this way. Hopefully that's helpful, Taylor. Mimi's also giving some advice here. There are times that being neutral is helpful. We don't know how said person became who they are. Exactly. J-Lo says, I'm going to look crazy today, Amanda. We'll be asking that little self-talk what's going on with her. I love that. Destiny says, thank you, Amanda J. Love that perspective. Kimberly Eberhardt, you're welcome, J-Lo. I love that you guys interact with one another too. So wonderful, this community that we're growing here. I love it. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you're brand new and we crossed a lot of territory into things you don't understand today, please feel free to ask questions during the show. You can send them to me via email. My website is www.living-astrology.com. That hyphen between living and astrology, very important to make sure it gets to me. And you can join us every day if you want to. We would love to have you with us to ask your questions and join your energy with ours. All right, everybody, take care. Thank you again, and I will see you tomorrow morning. Bye for now.